All right, 6 Cactus League games in the books, 25 more to go. We are 1 month away from opening day 2026 at Petco Park, Padres and Detroit Tigers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friar Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Darren Smith. That is Marty Caswell. I don't know, Marty, does it feel like it's still far away or does it feel like it's right around the corner?
It feels like it's right around the corner. I mean, 1 month away. Time to get ready, time to get your opening tickets, time to figure out how Nick Pivetta is going to look, his relationship with his personal catcher, Freddie Fermin. We can go ahead and get to that a little bit later, but it feels like it's right around the corner. But it's kind of strange because the Padres' most important players are leaving this weekend for the WBC. So it's an interesting time right now to watch this Padres team.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Yeah, a little bit of both. You look at it, and by the time people watch this or listen to this, they might have played a 7th game or an 8th game. But as we're recording, the Padres have split. It's odd the way that cadence has gone thus far: loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. But I'm with you. Like I tend to look at some of this stuff and I think, well, it's really not that big of a deal because it's Cactus League, and what does it matter? But then there are other things you look at and you go, well, that does kind of matter, doesn't it? Especially when you think about pitching, when you think about what the lineup is going to look like. Like, let me just fire a couple things at you real quick. You just tell me, because we've been trained to listen to a lot of people over the years say that things don't matter. We don't want to hear about numbers. We don't want to hear about stats.
Right.
And I don't think that applies to everybody. I'm not concerned that Fernando Tatis Jr. has struck out 3 times. I'm not. He's going to make the team, right? So, I'm not worried about that. But there are other guys who you might be paying attention to their numbers. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like Michael King going out the other day. When last we saw Michael King, he threw 17 pitches in the wild card round against the Chicago Cubs. I thought it was significant that he went out there and almost went 3 innings in his Cactus League debut. How about you?
I think it's very significant, and let's see, 2.2 innings, 2 hits, earned run, 4 Ks, 37 pitches, 26 for strikes, 6 swing misses, and I think like Craig Stammen said yesterday, all he wanted was for him to get out of there unscathed, right? That's all you want for your pitchers. No injuries. You don't want to walk out to the mound. I mean, no limitations right now. They're building him back up. They're getting him ready to go ahead and be, for that number 2 start. I'm locking it in. He is your your number 2 starter behind Nick Pivetta. Your big thing right now, build up that arm strength and don't get injured. Yes, I think it's significant because right now you can think, who are your locks for this rotation? Pivetta, King, I would think Randy Vasquez, a guy like Joe Musgrove. You want to be careful with him. Bring him back slowly. You don't want to overdo it. That's what Joe Musgrove told us on this very show a week ago, right? Especially when you're coming back from Tommy John. But of all the guys right now who are vying for a spot in the rotation, I don't have too much concern on Michael King because to your point, Darren, he was available for postseason. He had a flawless inning for the Padres in the wild card. The big question was, why didn't they leave him in longer in that game? Right. Why didn't he start that game? So we'll see what happens. But right now, if you're the Padres, you're Niebla, you're Stammen, you're feeling pretty good about your $25 million investment.
Yeah, 73 total innings for Michael King last year. Yeah. We also were told often, and everybody has said the team is looking for more slug. Hit 5 home runs. The only member of the 40-man roster to hit a home run is Miguel Andujar. I don't know. I mean, is that something to pay attention to? Is it not? I sort of find myself caught in between, not just trying to, be desperate for content here, but he's like literally the only guy in the 40-man roster who's hit a home run. I don't think it's a big deal. What about you?
It's not a big deal at all. That's the last thing I'm concerned about. And listen, I know Stammen said that you're going to get some more playing time for the guys who are leaving for the WBC. Tatis, Machado, Bogarts. Those are literally the 3 players I'm worried the least about. I think right now, you care about the numbers if you're a guy like JP Sears, who looked terrible in his first start, who's going to pitch again on Saturday. When you have a limited number of spots available for a certain position, I'm not too concerned about that. I am concerned, though, that the Padres were the last team to make an error in Cactus League, or of all the teams. The last team to make an error were the Padres, and it came because of Nick Castellanos at first base, a throwing error in the 6th inning. So no, seriously, what I'm concerned about, who's your first baseman? If they are trying to give Castellanos time there, how does he look defensively? Because when these games matter, man, those type of errors, how he covers the bag, that can be the difference in a win or a loss. So to me, it's about how it's the backup catcher. It's the fit at first base. It's the Sheets Castellanos dynamic. It's figuring out your bench. I have zero concern. Tatis could go hitless the rest of spring training. and strike out wildly in every at bat, I'm not going to be, well, okay, I'm not joking. I'm sorry. I'll be a little bit concerned, tiny bit concerned. But there are certain players, Darren, that you don't get concerned about. And this is a conversation we had so many years, I think especially with Chris Young, right? Who is now the executive, he's now the GM with the Texas Rangers. There are certain guys you don't worry about because they're out there to go ahead and get some work, to work out some kinks. So I'm not worried about certain guys on that pitching staff. I'm not worried about Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, not even Merrill. I'm worried more about the health of certain players and what they're trying to accomplish.
And that's why we're talking about players on the fringe. We're saying all the other regular players, they're excused from this conversation. I know we joke about Tatis and the strikeouts.
Yeah.
But, I think Andujar, like hitting a home run, it's a $4 million guarantee. Like that's, that could be, he might be a sneaky pick to click here for the Padres. And you brought up Sears. That was going to be the next one. 2/3 of an inning. He doesn't have the luxury.
No.
Like other pitchers have had through the years past. You mentioned Chris Young. Padre Woody Williams was one of these guys who always had terrible numbers. Trevor Hoffman didn't have great Cactus League numbers.
Right.
You were never worried about them. So I'm with you. I think the Sears thing, I'm not saying there's a lot of pressure on a second start in a spring training game, but still, when we're trying to figure out Sears or Marquez or Buehler, these are the guys I think that you're paying attention to see what it is that they look like, because somebody's going to have to carry this responsibility into the month of March and into the month of April, right? So I am. Let me just ask you one more thing.
Yes.
Just to, sort of see if you think it's a big deal. Dodgers are undefeated through their first 5. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it matter? No,
I don't know. Just asking.
I don't care at all. Is there an award? No, you don't get it.
No, I don't. No, I remember my first spring training, I got wrapped up in Cactus League standings, and the late, great Kevin Towers, former Padres general manager, I asked him, do you get anything? Do you win anything if you win the Cactus League? And he said, all the GMs buy you a flat screen television. But
oh, really?
I found out later he was just yanking my chain. We talked a lot about the lineup, Marty. Last time that we were on, we talked a little bit. I don't want to beat a dead horse on the lineup, and we'll hear what Craig Stammen has to say here in a second.
Yep.
But I did look up the top 15 players in offensive WAR from 2025. That would be Judge, Cal Raleigh, Bobby Witt Jr., Ohtani, Perdomo, Turner, Corbin Carroll, Jose Ramirez, Lindor, Soto, Julio Rodriguez, Vlad Jr., Juan Soto. Did I say that? Fernando Tatis. Combined, none of these people hit fourth. No, I don't know why. Judge never batted fourth last year, like literally 0 times. Cal Raleigh's the only one who did it. 22 games, he was the cleanup hitter, but mostly he batted second and third. Nobody else did this. So I'm starting to think maybe there's a reason for that, that if you are the best offensive wins above replacement player, this is not the spot in the batting order that you should be batting. Have I made a compelling case on this yet?
You've made a very, very compelling case, and Darren, I wish you were in spring training right now so you can go ahead and make this case to Craig Stammen. And I want to do one more thing on the lineup, okay? Because it bothered me, because we got so much feedback from our last show. People are like, you're an idiot. Have you watched baseball? This show is dumb. Who, Darren, and Padres fans, go ahead and put your bias aside. Who right now is considered the best offensive player in baseball? The best player in baseball. Who is it?
Ohtani.
Right, Ohtani. Where does he bat?
Yeah, bats leadoff. And
why is that?
And Ohtani only batted first. He batted second 10 times last year. I have the whole list right in front of me. I won't bore you with all of these details. But all of these players, Marty, all of these players were the best offensive players in the game, according to wins above replacement. And even if you don't think that stat, if you think that's a junk stat, that's fine. But just listen to the names that I just said there. Trey Turner and Corbin Carroll. All of these guys batted first or second, some of them third. None of them, literally, none of them batted fourth. So I know we have a little bit more from Craig Stammen on the lineup, which we'll get to here momentarily. Yes. But I just want to reinforce that, because the cleanup hitter thing, it just isn't a thing anymore. You batted 1, 2, or 3. That's where your MVPs are coming from. Think about who the MVPs have been over the last 4 or 5 years. Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge.
That's
even Judge, who you think is this Paul Bunyan kind of figure. Oh, he's a cleanup hitter. He doesn't bat cleanup. He doesn't. He didn't do it any of his MVP seasons, and neither has Ohtani. So I think we need to rethink all of this now. Since, again, we did get a lot of pushback, and I appreciate that. But we'll hear what Craig Stammen has to say about the lineup when we return. All right, well, Marty's already made her trip to Arizona, out to Peoria to go see the Padres in spring training. Many of you are going to be making that trip as well. Now, we can give you advice on how to get there. Do you want to drive? Do you take the 8? Do you want to fly? It's like a 45-minute flight. But Marty, people want to know, how do I get tickets to go watch the Padres in Cactus League action once I do get to Arizona?
Your answer is SeatGeek. It's always going to be SeatGeek, whether you want to watch JP Sears or Randy Vasquez pitch this weekend, or you want to watch Fernando Tatis Jr., Mason Miller, Manny Machado in the WBC. Always think about SeatGeek.
Yeah, SeatGeek's a tremendous app. I use it all the time, and I'm the guy that always waits to the last second, so SeatGeek is perfect for me. #1 rated ticketing app, more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. We're talking concert sports. Don't forget the WBC, like Marty said. It's out there this year. Maybe you want to go catch one of those games very last minute. You can find it all on SeatGeek. Each ticket rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know, is it a good deal? What is it? And, of course, we have a code for you guys. Use the code Territory10, 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets. Promo code Territory10. Click the link in the description. Download the app. Have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it for later. Thank you, SeatGeek.
All right, Darren. So a lot of conversation about Craig Stammen and the lineup. This is what Stammen had to say yesterday when he was asked about the mix-up with his Big Four.
Craig, with the batting order stuff, how much of it to you is, especially with your big guys, maybe in the top half, their comfort level in a certain spot?
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, is trying different things to see where they do feel most comfortable or where our lineup is most dynamic and most comfortable. A part of it right now too is getting them as many at bats as they can without putting them on their feet for 9 innings and getting them ready for WBC.
Do you have much input from baseball operations on that, on lineups construction?
Zero thus far, but we'll see when we start losing if AJ has an opinion.
And the boys.
Yeah, and the boys too. No, I mean, it's honestly, like, I don't look at it as just my decision. I don't really care if it's just my decision. It's the Padres' decision. It's our lineup. It's not my lineup. It's not Randy Norris' lineup. It's not Manny's lineup. It's our lineup together. You know, how we can win the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so he is saying he's getting zero input right now from AJ Preller in the baseball ops side. I'm not sure why that surprised me a little bit, but how much input do you think he's getting from Tatis, Manny Machado, about where they want, about their comfort level? If this were Juan Soto, we know what the conversation would have been. He let Bob Melvin know exactly what he was willing and unwilling to do, and that kind of affected the Padres lineup going forward. But how much input do you think Fernando and Manny have had in this process?
Well, I have heard that, contrary to popular opinion, that lineups are just being popped out of these front offices. And I do think in a lot of places that is probably true, that a manager is being presented with the front office having an optimized lineup. I have heard that the Padres don't actually do that AJ Preller really doesn't do that he doesn't send down lineups. Now, they might have their research and development team say, hey, listen, this is the way we think it would work statistically, whatever, but it's ultimately up to the manager, has been my understanding.
Okay.
And I'm not in the room. I cannot verify that, but that's always what I've heard about AJ Preller, that he is mostly hands-off. If he sees something that he doesn't agree with, he's not afraid to chime in, but that he has not demanded lineups 1 through 9. That's just, again, what I've heard. Craig Stammen, maybe different situation here, first-time manager. But I think you're right, and I think we've heard this from Craig Stammen, that he said that Fernando Tatis Jr. did not think that he did well in the leadoff spot last year. That's what Craig Stammen said. Now, I don't understand that. I mean, you could tell him, yes, you did. You were an all-star last year. You had, in some metrics, you had your best year. Your walk rate was up. Your strikeouts were down. Stolen base. Like, you actually did do a good job in that spot. Now, he doesn't seem to think so. Remember, even he was confused when he got named to the All-Star game.
Right.
In the middle of last year, he's like, what are you talking about? I'm going on a trip. But Craig Stammen has said that, that he's a guy who has expressed that he didn't think he did a good job there, which is why we're even talking about this today.
Right. You're to your point. Tatis had a nice resort, a nice island getaway booked before he was added to the All-Star team. And Darren, I'm also thinking of what Craig Stammen said when he was introduced as the Padres' next manager, as well as what he said at FanFest about Tatis, that they think they can get a lot more out of Tatis. Like, so I know what he's saying, but Tatis is his own harshest critic. And he heard the criticism about some of his at-bats and what's happened to his slug and how much of it is tied to so the surgeries he's had, how much of it is tied to the PED suspension that he had. What kind of player is he? And he expects that he is capable of carrying a team, of a lot more slug, of a 40 home run season. We haven't seen that from Fernando. And what Craig said was, we expect more from Fernando. we know that he can be the MVP type player that he showed years ago. So they might say, what do you mean? He led in all these different categories. But I just think that he probably changed his approach as being of a more unselfish player. My job isn't to go ahead and hit home runs in the leadoff spot. My job is just to get on base and let the big boys behind me drive me in. So I just wonder how much of that mindset changes approach. But he's telling you.
That's just not true. I mean, that is just not accurate based on everything that we've just already read. Again, like, forgive me for having too much time on my hands that I can look up the top 15 offensive WAR players in baseball and say this is where they all batted.
Yeah.
You can imagine how exciting my life is that I'm sitting around doing stuff like this. But it is true, Marty. Like, it is true. When you look at these guys, when you look at these MVPs, right? Like, the best version of Fernando Tatis Jr., I think we would all agree, is somebody who is in the MVP conversation.
Yes.
There's nobody else that I would look. And like, Manny was, a top 5 MVP guy back in 2022, the year that Fernando missed due to injury and suspension. So, it's always there. Like, you're always going to consider that Manny is the type of player that could carry a team. But I think if you were betting on somebody to be an MVP candidate for the Padres, you're going to bet on Fernando Tatis Jr. So, he can carry a team from those positions, from the top of the lineup. It doesn't have to just be there in the middle of the lineup. So I am confused by all of this. I still remain confused, although I know we're going to get a lot of pushback on social media again, but I'm just presenting evidence and actual facts that if you want to be an MVP candidate, it certainly seems in baseball's recent history that it comes out of the top 3 spots of the lineup, which is where I just want to see him play. I understand the argument. I understand the conversation about how he hits with runners on base and runners in scoring position. But I need more from him. I need him in my top 3. I just do. I've made my decision on this. I've listened to all
You made your
of the
decision?
feedback.
Okay.
I'm over it. I don't want to hear any more of this nonsense. I want him in the top 3 because that, to me, is where you're going to get the best version of him. And I think you are right. That he was surprised at the All-Star selection last year. It tells you a little bit about how he views himself, that he really does view himself as this supernova, right?
He does.
Like as this unicorn, like Shohei Ohtani and like Aaron Judge. And if he's not in that, and he's been a cut below since the 2022 season. I mean, he's still a star player. He's been to a couple of All-Star games. He's won a couple of platinum gloves. These are not things that should be dismissed. But I guess he's just not in that kind of conversation. And how it is or why it is that he thinks he'd get back into that conversation batting somewhere else in the lineup, like 4th, I'm not so sure. I don't understand it, but we'll see the way this unfolds.
As he said, when he is in the right place, that he believes that he can be the top player in baseball. It's time for him to go ahead and prove it. How much? I'm sure. I asked AJ Preller who you rooting for the WBC, and of course, in AJ Preller fashion, he refused to answer that question because he loves all his kids. Right? He wants the Dominican team to win because of Machado and Tatis, and of course Mason Miller for Team USA. But how much? All this conversation we're having with the lineup and getting guys comfortable, right? And you want to see, how they react to being in certain positions. How much do you want to go ahead and test this up right now? I mean, these guys are going to be gone, and that's a very talented, deep Dominican team. They're leaving this weekend. So all the conversation we're having about, hey, how does it work with, Manny 3rd and Tatis 4th and Jackson Merrill 2nd and Bogey leading off? These guys are 3 to 4 all taking off. We're not going to see that dynamic together for a couple of weeks. It must be a very interesting time to be Craig Stammen making all these changes, tinkering with that lineup.
Yeah. Welcome to your first big league managerial gig.
Yep.
You're out there in Phoenix, Arizona, and some of your most important players are going to be gone for 2 weeks. And
I know.
Deep down, you're like, yeah, I'm super excited for those guys.
No.
I hope they go as long. We won't see them till the 3rd week of March. But deep down, you're probably also like, gosh dang. Mm-hmm. It's sure nice to have those guys around here. But it's it's opportunities for other players.
Yeah.
I think to focus on them a little bit. Jackson Merrill's talked about it. Nick Castellanos, to your point, Andujar. So, it is an opportunity for some of these other guys, especially when we think we kind of know what we're getting with the other guys that aren't going to be part of the WBC.
It's going to open up some real playing time for these guys who are vying for a job. So we'll see how that turns out.
So we do want to talk a little bit about Padre ownership. So we do that when we come back. Forgive me, I don't have the 4-minute clock. Do we have another break, or do we just keep rolling here?
We can keep on rolling, Darren.
All right. Well, Marty, our colleague and our friend Dennis Lin from The Athletic has a Padres Q&A, a mailbag available at theathletic.com, and we often tap into some of Dennis's work for our own purposes. And Dennis was asked a question about ownership. Is there an update as to what it is that's happening? We're posting it here if you're watching on YouTube. That the beginning of the bidding process, it feels like we're kind of there. 2 rounds of bids, according to Dennis. And he has some interesting details. What did you learn in Dennis's answer about timelines for the Padres ownership, which feels like it's happening?
That it's still close. And I know that John Seidler, when he announced, when they had the presser for the extension for Preller, said that there were multiple suitors, not just the 3 names that we're aware of. I think Joe Lacob, Dan Friedkin, and I'm sorry, is it Jose
Feliciano Jr.
Those were the 3 names that we were made aware of. He said there are more suitors than that. The thing that jumped to me, here's that line. There has been growing expectations around the industry that the Padres will end up fetching more than the $2.42 billion Steve Cohen paid for the New York Mets in 2020. That's I find that fascinating, and I'm sure the Players Association, when we're going to have all these talks about lockouts and poverty and TV contracts and how much and rights fees, I'm sure they're going to find that fascinating, that the Padres that values are soaring. But the thing that's most important to me is that, as Dennis is reporting, there seems to be an expectation in the industry that we're going to have resolution on a new owner much sooner than we expected. How about for you?
Right. Now, these guys also have to take a peek at the books here. So who knows what's going on with some of the books. I think the business is pretty good. But isn't that amazing? I mean, that's why I always thought when we first heard that the Seidler family was making the team available, that I always thought it was going to go beyond the next CBA negotiations, because this thing would fetch a price tag of at least $2 billion. Now we're reading upwards of $2.5 billion as well, which is it's an incredible thing to think about here in San Diego. Where do we sign up? Like I would, for all this, nonsensical yammering on about how the owners take all the risk. Like, what risk? Like, there's no risk. It also makes me wonder too, like, why aren't they? I mean, if you're going to walk out of here with a $2.5 billion payday, I mean, what are you being so stingy for? Not so stingy. I mean, they're spending a lot of money, but how come you're keeping your general manager's hands tied here if he wants to go out and sign another free agent? Why are you doing that? You guys are going to walk out of here with $2.5 billion. Not bad for a team, Marty, in 2012 that was sold for $800 million. Huh? Not too bad. That is a higher rate of return than what we've seen on most of these sales. So that is good business. That is good news. And, hopefully an owner comes in here. And if you have that kind of money to spend, I think what you're doing is you're investing not only in the team and the colors and all that sort of stuff, but you're also investing in the recent success. And you're also investing in the fans and the way the fans have responded and supported this team over the last couple of years.
I also thought it was interesting, Darren, in that piece that there was more conversation as to why we don't know the terms of AJ Preller's extension. And I think Dennis speculated that it could be because perhaps his extension does not line up with Grupner's. That Grupner was extended through 2027, is that correct? And that perhaps with Preller, maybe it's a shorter term contract, given the uncertainty of the ownership. I mean, would it surprise you if it ends up being really a 1-year deal for AJ Preller? Like you're going to bring usually new people. They want to bring in their own people. So I wouldn't look at the multi-year extension for AJ Preller as hey, he's going to be here 5 years or he's going to be here as long as Eric Grupner. I still think there's a lot more uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's uncertain for everybody. I think one of the things that people talk about when we discuss this sale is how many of the people in the front office are going to stay.
Yeah.
When you look around here, and you and I have been around the club for a while, when you look around the club, there's only but a handful of people that go back to the John Moores era, right? Like John Moores into Jeff Morad, into Ron, back to John Moores, then to Ron Fowler, then the Peter Seidler, and whatever it's going to look like in the future. Sometimes things do change, right? CEOs change, right? Like even the current CEO was brought in here. That was part of a change in 2010 when Jeff Morad came into the mix. So, we've seen different CEOs, we've seen different general managers. I don't know that I would say everybody or that anybody is guaranteed any sort of position whatsoever. So I'm not sure exactly. And just because people have equity, we've read a little bit about Eric Grupner having equity in the club. That doesn't necessarily mean that you automatically get to keep your office. So I would only be guessing what sort of changes we're looking at down the road. But I suspect, Marty, once we get into the regular season, it will probably remain status quo for a while. You're probably not going to want to mess with things too much, but all of the people that we spend a ton of time talking about, whether it's right here on Friar Territory or whether it's been on the radio or social media, Like these people, and for the most part in this organization, were brought in here because things changed, because ownership changed, and because front office dynamics have changed as well. So it's not going to surprise anybody if that's what we're looking at somewhere down the road.
Ownership seems to change as much as Padres hitting coaches. Like you can never truly get comfortable. And the thing for this fan base though is we got spoiled with Peter Seidler. Absolutely spoiled. It was a one of a kind era. I know John Seidler, when I asked him a couple weeks ago, gosh, was that only a couple weeks ago? Was it a week ago, right? On the Parlor extension, what kind of owner that he wanted? He actually mentioned this. Somebody with ties to San Diego. Okay, he says he wants someone that loves baseball, loves the city of San Diego, and someone with ties to San Diego. Darren, of the known candidates, it seems to me there's only one guy that fits that qualification, right? Could you elaborate more on Dan Friedkin and his ties to San Diego?
Yeah, Dan Friedkin was born in San Diego. His father was a business owner in San Diego, which is where I think the family made a lot of its money. His dad owned an airline back in the day. And he is a singularly impressive human being, worth upwards, according to reports, upwards of about $10 billion. Ties to San Diego, as you said. He is an owner of a couple of different European soccer clubs. Okay. One in England, Everton, and then another in Italy.
Is he well liked? Is he well liked by those fan bases? I mean, owners.
I think the jury's out, but he came into the Everton situation at a time where the team was really on the verge of being relegated.
Okay.
Several seasons in a row. He came in. There was a team that had a lot of debt. He converted debt into equity. So he did a bunch of smart things on the business side, which I feel like there's some connective tissue to the Padres situation there. So that's what stands out to me. The other guy, Feliciano, is associated with a different team called Chelsea Football Club. Their fans seem to not be too impressed with the business model that's going on at Chelsea. Like they're running it more like it's a hedge fund than they are like it's something where they want to win. And then we know Joe Lacob. Joe Lacob has success. He's a 4-time NBA champ with the Golden State Warriors, Southern California roots. So, I think we just are sort of evaluating these people a little bit on their Wikipedia bios, but often how their sports teams have performed as well. So I would say of the three, if I were ranking them, I think Friedkin is probably the most interesting. Lacob seems like it's the favorite. There are people around town that will tell you that's the guy. Like he's got the inside track.
Really?
So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that's people in those kind of circles, Marty, have said they feel like he's going to be the dude. Like he's the guy. He's got the pathway. So we'll see. I'm not so sure, but that's the word on the street when your ear's on the pavement out here.
Well, I think that the biggest thing for fans is going to be an owner that will spend money and make an instant splash. And if you're the next owner, how do you make an instant splash? Now, I'll tell you this. I think with the recent group, I think going to Brown, like one of the biggest things that the Padres did under Peter Seidler, and I think it was Fowler too, was to change to the Brown. That people embraced it right away. So if you're the next owner, what do you change up, Darren? What do you mix up?
Well, remember this about Peter Seidler, and I always think it's an important point. Peter Seidler spent years behind the scenes learning about San Diego. He didn't get into this position and say, hey, I'm saving this.
Right.
This is me. These are all my ideas. Everybody listen to me. You guys have been a bunch of losers around here. I'm going to turn this thing around. He didn't do that. He spent years as the number 2 behind Ron Fowler when Ron Fowler was the chairman. And he literally studied the history of San Diego sports. He literally would go back and watch old videos of 1984 World Series parades and 1998 World Series celebrations or NLCS celebrations. That's how he became the owner that he became, because he recognized what it was that was important. And I hope the next owner will do their due diligence and don't just come in here and tell us how you're going to fix everything. Come in here and try to understand the fan base, because that's what made Peter Seidler so beloved. He knew what was important. He knew that Brown was the thing. The color scheme was something that the fans had been clamoring for, other than all these very forgettable uniforms that we had to deal with throughout the years. He learned all of that stuff. He used to talk to us, Marty, about this exact thing, Peter would, about what it was like when you would see these celebratory moments where the team got through the Atlanta Braves in the NLCS and they were partying in Pacific Beach and partying in Chula Vista. Like, he went back and watched all of those old news clips and read all those stories so he could understand San Diego. So the next person, I hope, has that same approach. Not that you have to be, to that length, but I hope that person has the same approach, because that's really what made Peter so special, was the respect that he had for what had been here before him, not just, hey, I'm here to save the day. So whoever it is, like you said, this Friedkin guy, I mean, from San Diego. So I'm sure he's got a couple of things to say and some relatable experiences for a lot of other people who grew up around San Diego, if in fact it is him. But again, Dennis Lin at The Athletic seems to suggest that things are moving pretty quickly. All right.
Always a mystery name. Always a mystery name, Darren.
I was going to talk about the ABS system. I'm so fascinated by some of this stuff.
Hey, by the way, Padres catchers are like undefeated in ABS, right? Those are going to be the guys who are going to be challenging. I'm
fascinated by this.
I
mean,
love
Marty,
it.
There's this reporting was earlier this week. There was 302 challenges. That's like 5 per game, and 53% of the challenges have been overturned.
Incredible.
It's like half of them. That's amazing. Now, again, that's not to say 50% of all calls are going wrong. 50% of the challenges have been overturned, which I just think is it's a totally new element to the game now. Like, who was it? Ty France that benefited from a challenge, and then he had like a 2-run double. So, I mean, it's going to impact the game. So
you love this. This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
It's strategic.
It's overdue, right?
Yeah.
It's overdue.
It's a strategic thing. I saw one umpire, I think it was in a Grapefruit League game, who got 5 straight calls overturned in the same game. Like, poor guy. It's like a Snickers commercial, isn't it?
Want to get away?
Yeah, I think so. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I do have to say, I also had other people, Marty, who have sent me receipts because they went to friarterritoryshop.com and purchased some gear. I am just saying.
I want
shout
that
out
backpack.
to Christina, who just
That's
did
fantastic.
that as well.
Jody.
friarterritoryshop.com.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Stay tuned. If you want to subscribe to Friar Territory, you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find it on YouTube. That's Marty Caswell. I'm Darren Smith. See you next time.